It's week 43 of A Year of Wisdom, and we have some catching up to do. Let's get to reading. Day 294 and day 295 combined. Job 29, 30, and 31. Job went on speaking, I wish I were as in the old days, back in the times when God watched over me, when his lamp shone over my head and I walked through the dark by its light, as I was when I was young and God's counsel graced my tent. Then Shaddai was still with me, my children were around me, my steps were awash in butter and the rocks poured out for me streams of olive oil. I would go out to the city gate and set up my seat in the open space. When young men saw me, they would hide themselves, while the aged arose and stood. Leaders refrained from speaking. They would lay their hands on their mouths. The voices of nobles were silenced. Their tongues stuck to their palates. Any ear that heard me blessed me. Any eye that saw me gave witness to me. For I delivered the poor when they cried for assistance. The orphan, too, who had no one to help him. Those who had been about to die would bless me, and I made widows sing in their hearts for joy. I clothed myself with righteousness, and it clothed itself with me. My justice was like a robe and a crown. I was eyes for the blind, and I was feet for the lame. I was a father to the needy, and I investigated the problems of those I didn't know. I broke the jaws of the unrighteous and snatched the prey from his teeth. I said, I will die with my nest, and I will live as long as the phoenix. My root will spread till it reaches water, and dew will stay all night on my branch. My glory will always be fresh, my bow always new in my hand. People would listen to me. They waited and were silent when I gave advice. After I spoke, they didn't talk back. My words were like drops of dew on them. They waited for me as if for rain, as if for spring rain, with their mouths open wide. When I joked with them, they couldn't believe it, and they never darkened the light on my face. I chose their way for them, sitting as chief. I lived like a king in the army, like one who comforts mourners. But now, those younger than I hold me in derision, men whose fathers I wouldn't even have put with the dogs that guarded my sheep. What use to me was the strength in their hands. All their vigor had left them. Worn out by want and hunger, they gnaw the dry ground in the gloom of waste and desolation. They pluck salt wort and bitter leaves. These, with broom tree roots, are their food. They are driven away from society, with men shouting after them as after a thief, to live in gullies and wadis, in holes in the ground and caves in the rocks. Among the bushes they howl like beasts and huddle among the nettles. Irresponsible nobodies driven from the land. Now I have become their song. Yes, I'm a byword with them. They loathe me. They stand aloof from me. They don't hesitate to spit in my face, for God has loosened my bowstring and humbled me. They throw off restraint in my presence. At my right, the street urchins attack, pushing me from place to place, besieging me with their ways of destruction, breaking up my path, furthering my calamity. Even those who have no one to help them, they move as through a wide gap. Amid the ruin, they roll on in waves. Terrors tumble over me, chasing my honor away like the wind. My hope of salvation passes like a cloud. So now my life is ebbing away. Days of grief have seized me. At night, pain pierces me to the bone so that I never rest. My clothes are disfigured by the force of my disease. They choke me like the collar of my coat. God has thrown me into the mud. I've become like dust and ashes. I call out to you, God, but you don't answer me. I stand up to plead, but you just look at me. You've turned cruelly against me. With your powerful hand, you keep persecuting me. You snatch me up on the wind and make me ride it. You toss me about in the tempest. For I know that you will bring me to death, the house assigned to everyone living. Surely God wouldn't strike at a ruin if in one's calamity one cried out to him for help. Didn't I weep for those who were in trouble? Didn't I grieve for the needy? Yet when I hoped for good, what came was bad. When I expected light, what came was darkness. My insides are in turmoil. They can't find rest. Days of misery confront me. I go about in sunless gloom. I rise in the assembly and cry for help. I've become a brother to jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin is black and falling off me, and my bones are burning with heat. So my lyre is tuned for mourning, my pipe to the voice of those who weep. I made a covenant with my eyes not to let them lust after any girl. What share does God give from above? What is the heritage from Shaddai on high? Isn't it calamity to the unrighteous, disaster to those who do evil? Doesn't he see my ways and count all my steps? If I've gone along with falsehood, if my feet have hurried to deceit, then let me be weighed on an honest scale, so that God will know my integrity. If my steps have wandered from the way, if my heart has followed my eyes, if the least dirt has stuck to my hands, then let me sow and someone else eat. Let what grows from my fields be uprooted. If my heart has been enticed toward a woman, and I've lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another man, and let others kneel on her. For that would be a heinous act, a criminal offense, a fire that would burn to the depths of Abaddon, uprooting all I produce. If I ever rejected my slave or slave girl's cause, when they brought legal action against me, then what would I do if God stood up? Were he to intervene, what answer could I give? Didn't he who made me in the womb make them too? Didn't the same one shape us both before our birth? If I held back anything needed by the poor, or made a widow's eye grow dim with tears, or ate my portion of food by myself without letting the orphan eat any of it? No, from my youth he grew up with me as if with a father, and I have been her guide from my mother's womb. Or if I saw a traveler needing clothing, someone in need who had no covering, who didn't bless me from his heart for being warmed with the fleece from my sheep, or if I lifted my hand against an orphan, knowing that no one would dare charge me in court, then let my arm fall from its socket, and let my forearm be broken at the elbow. For calamity from God has always terrified me. Before his majesty I could never do a thing like that. If I made my gold my hope, if I said to fine gold, you are my security, if I took joy in my great wealth, in my having acquired so much, or if on seeing the shining sun or the full moon as it moved through the sky, my heart was secretly seduced, so that I would wave them a kiss with my hand, then this too would be a criminal offense, for I would have been lying to God on high. Did I rejoice at the destruction of him who hated me? Was I filled with glee when disaster overtook him? No, I did not allow my mouth to sin by asking for his life with a curse. Was there anyone in my tent who didn't say, no one can find a single person whom he has not filled with his meat? No stranger had to sleep in the street. I kept my house open to the traveler. If I concealed my sins, as most people do, by hiding my wrongdoings in my heart, from fear of general gossip or dread of some family's contempt, keeping silent and not going outdoors, I wish I had someone who would listen to me. Here's my signature. Let Shaddai answer me. I wish I had the indictment my adversary has written. I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it on me like a crown. I would declare to him every one of my steps. I would approach him like a prince. If my land cried out against me, if its furrows wept together, if I ate its produce without paying or made its owners despair, then let thistles grow instead of wheat and noxious weeds instead of barley. The words of Eov are finished. Proverbs or Mishlei 21 and 22. The king's heart in Adonai's hand is like streams of water. He directs it wherever he pleases. All a person's ways are right in his own view, but Adonai weighs the heart. To do what is right and just is more pleasing to Adonai than sacrifice. Haughty looks, a proud heart, what the wicked plow is sin. The plans of the diligent lead only to abundance, but all who rush in arrive only at want. A fortune gained by a lying tongue is vapor dispersed by seekers of death. The violence of the wicked will sweep them away, because they refuse to act justly. A criminal's conduct is crooked, but the work of the pure is right. It is better to live on a corner of the roof than to share the house with a nagging wife. The wicked is set on evil. He doesn't pity even his neighbor. When a scorner is punished, the simple become wiser, and when the wise is instructed, he takes hold of knowledge. The righteous one observes the house of the wicked. He overthrows the wicked to their ruin. Whoever stops up his ears at the cry of the poor will himself cry, but not be answered. A secret gift allays anger, and a bribe under the cloak the strongest fury. Acting justly is a joy for the righteous, but it terrifies evildoers. The person who strays from the way of common sense will come to rest in the company of the dead. Pleasure lovers will suffer want. He who loves wine and oil won't get rich. The wicked serve as a ransom for the righteous, and likewise the perfidious for the upright. It is better to live in the desert than with a nagging, irritable wife. In the home of the wise are fine treasures and oil, but a fool quickly devours it. He who pursues righteousness and kindness finds life, prosperity, and honor. A wise man can go up into a city of warriors and undermine the strength in which it trusts. Whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps himself out of trouble. Scoffer is what you call a proud, insolent person who acts with overweening conceit. A lazy man's craving will kill him because his hands refuse to work. He covets greedily all day long, but a righteous person gives without holding back. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when he brings it with vile motives? A lying witness is doomed, but one who heard what was said will testify successfully. A wicked man puts on a bold face, whereas the upright prepares his ways. No wisdom, discernment, or counsel succeeds against Adonai. A horse may be prepared for the day of battle, but victory comes from Adonai. Rather than wealth, choose a good reputation, esteem over silver and gold. Rich and poor have this in common. Adonai made them both. The clever see trouble coming and hide. The simple go on and pay the penalty. The reward for humility is fear of Adonai, along with wealth, honor, and life. Thorns and snares beset the way of the stubborn. He who values his life keeps his distance from them. Train a child in the way he should go, and even when he's old, he will not swerve from it. The rich rule the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. He who sows injustice reaps trouble, and the rod of his angry outburst will fail. He who is generous is blessed because he shares his food with the poor. Throw the scoffer out, and quarreling goes too. Strife and insults cease. He who loves the pure-hearted and is gracious in speech will have the king as his friend. The eyes of Adonai protect the man with knowledge, but he overturns the plans of a traitor. A lazy man says, "There's a lion outside. I'll be killed if I go out in the street." The mouth of an adulteress is a deep pit. The man with whom Adonai is angry falls into it. Doing wrong is firmly tied to the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline will drive it far away from him. Both oppressing the poor to enrich oneself and giving to the rich yield only loss. Pay attention and listen to the words of the wise. Apply your heart to my knowledge, for it is pleasant to keep them deep within you. Have all of them ready on your lips. I want your trust to be in Adonai. That is why I'm instructing you about them today. I have written you worthwhile things, full of good counsel and knowledge, so you will know that these sayings are certainly true, and bring back true sayings to him who sent you. Don't exploit the helpless because they're helpless, and don't crush the poor in court. For Adonai will plead their case for them and withhold life from those who defraud them. Don't associate with an angry man. Make no hot-tempered man your companion. If you do, you may learn his ways and find yourself caught in a trap. Don't be one of those who give pledges, guaranteeing loans made to others. For if you don't have the wherewithal to pay, they will take your bed away from underneath you. Don't move the ancient boundary stone set up by your ancestors. Do you see a man skilled at his work? He will serve kings, not obscure people. And as always, thank you so much for being here today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right there and click the bell if you want notifications. And if you would, hit that like button for me. And I will see you tomorrow. Maranatha.
I know without a doubt you'll carry me out of the storm. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm lost without a clue. I need a big pink neon sign to show me what to do. I thank you, Lord. It glorifies you when you're the only answer. I praise you, Lord, for holding what's too much for me. And I'm amazed by you, Lord, because nothing's too big and nothing's too small to lay at your feet.